Hey Legion, it's Shauna here. I hope you're having a fantastic week. They're blowing by quickly. We're already midway into February of 2024. We've got exciting things coming. I've got some guests coming up on the next couple of podcasts. But first, I want to start off by saying thank you to my entire Legion. I've been getting fantastic feedback, ideas, concepts, things that you want to hear more about, and topics you want me to cover in the podcast. And we'll definitely be doing that going forward. But here in episode 5, we're going to be covering old self versus new self. And I know we have a lot of conversations about who we used to be versus who we are now. And I think it's an exciting time to do some self-reflection and kind of see where that takes us. I think as we're uncovering who we used to be versus who we are right now in this moment, I think it's really important to remember that we would never want to change who we were because it's made us who we are now. But the beautiful part about where we're going and what we want it to look like for ourselves and the new us's or whatever we want to create for ourselves, that is every day from this day forward. We get the opportunity to become who we've always wanted to be. It's shaped us. Obviously, our past is our past. Accept it, own it, right? Own your shit, bitch. Remember that one? But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean it is going to be your prison. It's going to hold you to where you used to be. You have to embrace the fact that whether it was choices, decisions, lifestyles, whatever that looks like, that developed you into who you are right now in this moment. But that is not who you are and maybe not who you want to be. And the beautiful part is every day, every time we step outside our door, every chance we have is a new opportunity for us to become who we want to be and what it looks like. And we get to create that every single day. That's the coolest part about it. My guess is who you are now is not who you were in your teens, your 20s, even your 30s or your 40s, right? We evolve, we change, experience. Life experience is the best teacher. You can have a ton of diplomas, you can have a ton of formal education, but at the end of the day, experience is going to be oftentimes your best teacher. And whether it's your own experience or you've learned from friends or whatever their situations have derived that you decided I didn't want to do it that way, or hey, I loved how they handled a certain situation. But to me, the first thing starts with creating our boundaries. And it's super easy to create boundaries. Trust me, I've done it hundreds of times. It's following through and holding accountable to those boundaries. That's going to be the tricky part. And I know for a lot of women, we do it every single time. Nope, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do this. This is exactly how I'm going to handle a situation. And I promise, you're going to get opportunities to handle situations very similar to ones that you've had in the past. It's now how you handle them in the future changes because of who you are now, the person you've become based on those years of experience in life. So setting boundaries isn't really the hard part, right? It's honoring those boundaries, holding accountable to yourself those boundaries. I know I'm not alone when I say this. I have set boundaries and I have let people step all over them, whether it's coworkers, whether it's men, relationships, even friends, family members, boy, right? Family members, they're really great at knowing which buttons to push and how to really stretch our boundaries. It's holding accountable with respect and kindness. To me is the most important part, but maintaining those boundaries. And like I said, I've sucked at it in the past because I'm a pleaser. I'm a people pleaser. I want to do for other people when I know what their needs are. It's really easy just to set my boundaries completely aside and go full force. As moms, we do it all the time, right? We put our kids first all the time. And oftentimes, holding our kids accountable is a showing of not just respect, but them learning what is important and how to maintain and with strong boundaries move forward, but still understand that you can have a great relationship with somebody. You can evolve in friendships, coworkers, the same thing. Oftentimes it's the way we voice how we feel about our boundaries, if they are being crossed, if they're being stretched, if they're being pushed. That's the biggest part. And some people are not as tactful as others. I know you've had it just like I've had it. Coworkers, family members, they really don't give a shit about your boundaries. They're going to push you because that's just what they want to do, because at the end of the day, it's what they want. But you have to really remember and focus and maintain in your heart what it is you need. And eventually, it's as win-win as possible. No, we're not always going to get everything the way we want it, but if you work really hard on maintaining those boundaries, I promise it will definitely pay off in the end. You just have to stay focused and vigilant. Now let's go back to that part where I said it's about how you voice it. I have written a book. I've said that on a couple of podcasts. It's Bitch Own Your Shit. And one of the biggest parts is I actually had somebody recently come up and ask me, so why the word bitch? And here's what I did. I decided I wanted to look up the Urban Dictionary and get the definition of boss bitch. So here goes. A confident, successful, and independent woman who speaks her mind and stands up for what she believes in. She keeps it 100% real with everyone, sets boundaries, and isn't afraid to go after what she wants. She is unique, courageous, and fierce. Her dreams are big, but her ambition is bigger. She is an advocate for the empowerment of women and knows that a strong mindset and putting herself first is for the betterment of everyone and everything around her. Positive energy, charisma, and drive to succeed make her an influential leader, role model, and mentor to other women. She is a force to be reckoned with and can be intimidating from afar. But once you get to know her, you'll realize she can be loving, caring friend, a confidant, and your own personal cheerleader. To me, as soon as I saw that, I regurgitated that and I said, this is exactly why I titled the book the way I did, because I want to flip the script on the word bitch. I don't really feel like it is an appropriate way or derogatory, and I know it's used in a lot of derogatory ways. Trust me, I know. I've heard it used in other worse words, right? But at the end of the day, it's that empowerment piece, it's that strength, it's that voice. And to me, again, it's that boundary piece. Setting those boundaries and honoring those, and then speaking up when it's time to say, hey, nope, we're gonna stop here. You've pushed the boundary too far, and I'm not okay with it. I think a big part of, as we're talking about the setting boundaries and becoming the new self, what we want it to look like, I think we have to remember that our past is still a big part of what we honor, a part of our journey, a part of who we are. And tomorrow is that optimistic piece of what we get to carve out for ourselves. Doesn't matter what season of life you're in. You could be in your 20s, just starting a career. You could be having children. You could be staying at home. You could be working. You could be doing a variety of things. Hell, I'm doing this now at my age, and I'm just deciding that I just want to put it out there because my biggest thing is I want to be an inspiration for other women. I want them to know to not hold back, not to be afraid of maybe what somebody may or may not say, people that do or don't know the truth about you, people that make up things. It happens all the time. Oftentimes you have to remember that's a reflection of who they are, not a reflection of who you are. People deal with things a variety of different ways, and you can't control that, right? We've talked about span and your focus of what you can control and what you can't control. We all know the serenity prayer. At the end of the day, you have to remember the things that you can't control, but focus on the things that you can. And that is where your power lies. Whether it's establishing routines, whether it's changing a career, whether it's getting out of a relationship that you know is not serving you in a positive, loving way to be and who you want to be. That person may have been great at that season of life, but it's time for them to go a different direction, you to go to a different direction. And I know it's really hard. It hurts the heart. It really does. We care about people, whether we're in love with them or we love them as a person. But you have to remember that it's not about how they feel. It's how you feel. How they make you feel? No, it's how you feel. You got to own that piece. And if it's not serving that purpose, what does it look like? Reflect, honor your boundaries. And if this person is not doing that, then it might be time to take that step, to take that leap, to take the faith, take that chance on yourself. It's time. Time is not going to wait, I promise. My kids were babies, it feels like yesterday, and now I've got one in college and one a junior in high school. It goes by that fast. Honor you, your boundaries, who you want to be, and what that looks like going forward, whether it's right now in this minute, the next hour, the next day, the next week. There's always time to start. You just got to be willing to do the work and stay focused. Laser focused, ladies. So as we continue to explore old self versus new self, again, new self, I think you're the only person that can define that for you and what you want that to look like. Again, starting a new career, branching out into hobbies that you want to take on, travel more, embrace new friendships, rekindle old friendships, whatever that looks like. But I do want to go back to the boss bitch piece because I also found another a definition, and it's the text layer. To me, it talks about the mindset. And that was a huge one that blew me away. I'm like, yes, absolutely. It's the mindset piece of being a boss bitch and empowering ourselves and influencing not just ourselves, but other women. One of the biggest reasons I went back and got my emotional intelligence life coaching certification, well, there's two reasons. One, I needed to learn and grow myself. My own emotional intelligence needed not just to shake the sugar tree, but really did need a bit of an overhaul. I was struggling kind of what my next season of life looked like. I was just challenged by a lot of things. So I decided just to immerse myself in it. And I'm telling you, it was one of the best things I ever did. But the flip side is because I do coaching, I do life coaching, emotional intelligence coaching. I coach athletes. I do sports performance. It was one of those things that I really wanted to better understand what mindset really, really meant. So boss bitch means you know your worth. It means that you are not afraid to demand what you deserve and what you want. It's funny how your scope changes and your perspective changes when you embrace that mindset. It's crazy. It's like this whole new invention of you just by changing a little switch in your brain. And it goes back to also having that clear vision of your goals, what that looks like. I think at the end of the day too, that self-belief. I know it's really easy to have self-doubt, right? Self-efficacy is huge, your self-confidence, but it does not take a lot to get that shaken up. I know that, trust me, I've been there, done that one. It's how you pick yourself back up and move on, that resiliency piece, your ability to grind it out, the mental struggle, the emotional struggle, it's all there. It happens to all of us. You have to remember, you're not alone. But also that refusal to never settle for less, to settle for excellence. And I'm not saying perfection. There's a huge difference between the two. But also knowing what it is you want it to look like and getting after it. I think that self-assured piece is a huge component as well. And I know that is not always easy. We struggle. I know we want to do big things, but then we realize there's work that it takes. There's steps that you have to implore to be able to get what you want. It's not just I envision it. And yes, I'm a huge believer in manifestation, all of those things, but you still got to do the work along with it. It's a side-by-side prospect that you've got to be able to strive for. You've got that desire for greatness, and that's amazing, and you should get after it for that very reason, because it's something for you and it's something you are absolutely capable of doing. It's one of those things that you've got to overcome the obstacles with grace, with laser focus, with compassion. One of my favorite speakers, Mel Robbins, if you haven't checked out her podcast, check her out. She's amazing, motivational. I love also too how she talks about there are also times when you have to revel in the struggle. You have to embrace that piece of it because it again is shaping you who you are and who you're going to be. And that struggle is very real, right? We've all heard that term, struggle is real. It's no different than anyone. It's how we bond together. It's how we drive ourselves, and we can then also drive other people and other women around us. And there's the big F word. You ready for it? Failure. You can't be afraid of it. I heard a great way of putting it is that we're not afraid of failing. We're oftentimes afraid of other people's opinion, of the fact that we even tried. And that's such bullshit. It's such a minuscule mindset. And I really struggle with that. And for women, I know it's hard to put yourself out there. It's hard to try something and it not work out the first time or the second time. But that's where that resiliency piece is. You're building those foundational blocks. If it's truly something you want, you will find a way. You might have to take a different route, a different detour. So as you're navigating the personal or professional journey, I think you have to remember that your resilience, your confidence, your unwavering focus, but also that determination will ultimately lead you to where it is you want to go. But having that kind of energy and that passion, wow, it takes so much energy, right? It takes so much of yourself. It takes a toll. So you have to also remember that as you're becoming the new you have to give yourself a little bit of grace. You have to give yourself a little bit of a deep breath and go, okay, I have to now say, this is what I'm going to do. This is what it has to look like. If it's backing up a few steps and starting again or redirecting, it happens. We all stumble. So as we continue to talk about becoming the person we want to be, I think it's really important to not just talk about the visualization piece, because that's really easy. You could be sitting in your car, you could be sitting at home watching TV, watching a great kick-ass chick movie and go, yeah, that's totally me, I'm going to do that. I think putting an action together with a plan is the biggest piece of that. We can visualize, we can fantasize, we can do all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, I think it's really important that if it's something that you want to do, first, I think it's important to journal it, write it down. I think that's the first step, right? Second step, I also think it's important to write down some of the characteristics, things that you're good at, things that you truly enjoy. Those are the things that you want to explore. That's more about who you are. That's more about maybe where you want to be. And then be really positive about it. What are some of those things? Revisit those words. Find things that do word association with that. Whether you're super outgoing or whether you're, talented when it comes to wood carving, or you're really fantastic when it comes to meal prep. Whatever that looks like. One of my very dear friends started in her 40s, decided she wanted to go back to school and become a nurse, which I think is amazing. And she has done the work, and it has been a grind, and it has been many years, and she continues on working on her now master's and PhD. But a lot of times we don't get where we want to go early on because things change, life comes up. And as life throws us whatever challenge, hurdle, whether it's a loss of a job, whether it's you've had kids and you weren't expecting to have one, I think at that point, it's not a bad idea to self-reflect, to be able to say, okay, what is it that I want to look like, whether it's in 2 months, 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, 12 months. Again, you can do and be anything that you want to be. You just got to be willing to put in the time and the work to do it. And it's hard, trust me. Putting yourself out there, like I said, I'm doing a podcast. It's awkward as hell sometimes, but I keep plugging away. Everything that I've seen when it comes to the research, or I've just totally watched a ton of other people podcasting, say, just get out there, do it. It gets better. You get better at it. You better understand what it looks like. And they're not wrong. You just kind of have to jump, take the leap, but make the plans. Put actions with the plan. And that's going to be the key for you becoming the kind of person you want to be. Also, as we're self-reflecting on who we want to be, I think it's also important sometimes to look back at some of the things that didn't go well. And I know that's not easy because we have to own our part in things. And many of my viewers know and subscribers know I was married 23 years and not a bad guy, just not my guy. And at the end of the day, things got so petty, and I'm not really a petty person, but it got to that place where things like the color of hangers that he used were so annoying. And then I was taking clothes off of those hangers because he used the wrong color because they were for my daughters and not his. It was, looking back, I laugh at that story. And I've told my producers that story, and they're like, oh, you totally have to share that. But it's true. It's not really who I was. It was who I was allowing myself to be, getting caught up in the emotional, the frustration, all of those things. You're not alone. We've all done it, and it's a struggle for sure. But I knew I didn't want to be that person. And that was part of my evolution and my journey. And I know everyone's is going to be very different. But I do want you to think back. Think back to a story, something that you're like, oh, this is so not me, and yet here I am doing this shit. What is wrong? And then you have to do point the finger back at yourself and go, all right, it's probably something I did or something that I said, because it takes two for things to work and for them not to work in any relationship, right? I think another key component of becoming who we want to be is not just writing it down on paper and visualizing it, but looking around at who we surround ourselves with. That's a big one. That's a tough one because, again, it means sometimes there are people in your life that may not be there as you move forward, as you drive towards the goal, whatever that looks like. And that's a harsh reality, but it's a reality you have to embrace. It's something you have to accept, because there are times you are going to just leave people behind. And I don't mean behind because they're worse than or you're better than. What I mean is it's just different. It's just a different time in your life for you to focus on you. And that's the crucial piece to all of this, is making sure as you're putting yourself first, you're driving the betterment of you, because it will make everyone else around you better. Your kids, your family, your friends. You're more positive, you're more outgoing, more inspirational, which I love. I love to listen to people talk, love conversations. It's one of my favorite things, as you can tell. So as we close podcast 5, I want you to remember who you were is not who you are. All of the experiences, all of the challenges, all of the successes that you have faced from all the moments before this to right now, that has definitely shaped you, but that doesn't mean you're done. we continue. Life is that journey. I know it sounds very cliche. We've all heard it, but it's true. Life is a journey. You learn from the good, the bad, the indifferent, and then you take it with you in the next steps of your life. And you can absolutely do and become anything you want to do, but you've got to be willing to accept that it's going to take work. There are going to be challenges, and you're not going to always succeed at it right away. But if it's something you want, that persistence, that willingness to grind it out and get after it, you, my Legion, can do anything that you want to, and you have to remember that. Looking forward to seeing you in episode 6. Remember to subscribe. Thanks so much for being a part of the Legion, and have a fantastic rest of your week.